Hello everyone, welcome to another project breakdown. Today I'm gonna go over the Fuze remix. As some of you might know, Skrillex has been playing this tune, and that's something insane, honestly. One of the biggest achievements of my life, I guess, when it comes to music. So today I'm gonna go over how I made it. We're gonna go over the whole project pretty much, intro, drops, everything, sound design. So let's get right into it. So I guess that we can go over kind of like the main groups that I have in the project first, and then take a look at the rest. So we have the drums. Let me just play this. And we have some vocals, actually, some chants. So effects. Have some other stuff here in the synth group as well. This is coming from the stems. So if you're wondering where I got the stems from, if you go to SoundCloud to the original tune, there's a link in the description, and you get the stems there. We have the bass group. And I mean, these are from the stems. And then subgroup, nothing going on here, but let's get right into it. So for the intro, this was supposed to be like a flip, and I wasn't gonna do anything special for the intro, but the thing is, like, when I posted this on SoundCloud, I got like a copyright issue, like a copyright strike, basically. And I was like, okay, I need to do something different for the intro, because I wasn't gonna be able to just upload it that way. So in the intro, I have mostly stems, honestly. We have pretty much like the first 16 bars are from the original. You know, like all stems, vocals. Do not but then when I go into this bar, I do have some of the stems playing this. I removed the low end because my idea was kind of like just, you know, making it a little bit different, so that way I could add my own like bass line and everything. I also transposed this down 12 semitones, I just realized. Original sounds like this. But I kind of liked the way it sounded like this, like 1 octave lower. And I removed the low end, of course, and I added a respace. So in this case, I have this sample and this one. Okay, I forgot about this. I didn't even remember doing this, but we have sampler here, and basically what I'm doing is the main res is just a sample like this, and it has some filter and distortion here as well. So if we turn this off, sounds pretty similar. But I like to mess with these circuit types, OSR, MS2, you know, you can add distortion this way, and also filter. And on top of this, I have this Vengeance sample. So this sounds like this. It's just this sample. Just this. I guess that I wanted to add a little bit of movement and rhythm to this section because it felt a little bit slower without this. So it would have been like this. Instead of this. And what I'm doing here is using arpeggiator to pretty much like retrigger the note. So wait, let me go slowly because I'm kind of like rushing a little bit. So I had this, but I didn't want the low end, so I just used a bad pass, and I added like +10 drive. I should have done something like this maybe at the end, but you know, didn't feel like it was kind of like muddy or anything, so left it like that. And the arpeggiator is basically retriggering the note, right? And you can also change the speed, mess with the gate if you want. So that way I made the bass line. And I also have this, which is, it's just one of the vocals from the stems with a bunch of reverb. I don't have the original. I don't know where that is, but you can hear it's one of these vocals. It's maybe one of these sections. And I just added a ton of reverb and kind of like removed some of the high end. So that way we get that super lush kind of like ambience. And so now we get this. You know, pretty cool already. I think the main kind of like stem from the original is pretty sick, so I didn't have to do much. And then we go to the vocal chops. So in here, what I did was grabbing a piece of the vocal. I mean, the stem is super big, so I think I just grabbed this piece of the vocal, or maybe this, one of these. I don't remember. And I used it on Simpler. And the reason why I use Simpler instead of Sampler is because you can do you can use the slice mode basically, and the slice mode allows you to, you know, like select different regions from the sample and just chop it up. So now if I just go to this instrument and I just play with like my keys, I already had something really cool going on. And of course there's some processing here in the group, but without it, it sounds pretty similar still. And I have two instances of the same, I mean, it's not exactly the same because I used a different part of the vocal here for this one, but it's the same idea, it's the same concept. So they both together sound like this. I think it sounded really cool. So I just left it like that and added some processing, but the processing is pretty much kind of like making the vocals appear in the mix, because at this point they're pretty quiet, right? So I wanted the vocal chops to be more upfront, so I just did some processing. And basically the idea here is just, you know, remove the low end, maybe add a little bit of space with the ping pong delay, OTT to bring all the higher frequencies back, and, you know, distortion at the end just to kind of like make it louder. So let's go one by one in these effects. So you'll notice that maybe OTT is gonna make the biggest difference here. Not even, I think overdrive maybe. You know, and that was pretty much it for the vocal chops. Honestly, they work really quick and they fit really well in the intro with everything else. And that's pretty much what I have for this part. Some of the percussions from the stems. And basically, it's pretty subtle, but I feel like this percussion is doing a lot for this section, because if not, it's gonna be 16 bars of pretty much the same. And also in the stems, the vocal is also building up a lot of energy. You know, so it starts pretty quiet, and then at this point it has a lot of information, so that makes the whole transition pretty smooth, right? But I'm not gonna go over all the details here because these are from the original. I didn't even do anything, like maybe some low end cut and erosion on the main vocal. That maybe wasn't even necessary, but. And then buildup, right? So one thing that I really like to do for my buildups is resample the drop. So of course we're not here yet, but this is basically a resample from the sounds from the drop without low end and with less information, I guess. I could have also done some like this, like pretty much like make it a little bit quieter, right? But here we have some of the stems going down. This is pretty much the vocal just looping, and what I did was basically bounce this to audio and then do like a fade out, so that way it's not, that way I can have a little bit more control over this in a separate channel, not just everything here, you know. And then the rest, I have some drums. Oh, I really wanted to use like vengeance loops because I feel like they fit really well with this kind of like dubstep, because it's kind of like old school. I'm not even old school, but it's kind of like the that bro step kind of like drop, right, or idea. So all these vengeance loops are insane for that. So I use this, one of my kicks, and just a clap, right? Pretty simple set of drums for this part, and of course a lot of effects from the stuff. Then we go into the drop, and I just have this sub drop going on here in the middle of the build-up. So going into the drop, I also have like a pre-drop kind of like thing here. We'll check that in a minute, but first we have the introduction to the drop, right? And in the original you get this super cool kind of like fake out for 4 bars, and then the drop continues, and I wanted to keep the same arrangement. So for the first bar in the drop, I have the stems, you know, like pre-iconic in this tune, so I wanted to keep it there. But then I have a bunch of different sounds, and I also have this group that I didn't use with a bunch of different ideas, and it's not good at all, but we can probably take a look at some of these sounds later. So for the main kind of like bass, what I did was basically I always try to split my layers or sound design in 3 parts, like sub, mid, highs. And in this case, in this group, I have like the transient side of, or the transient part of the sound, and then I have the sub here. Where is it? Here. Okay. So I think I used this shadow bass one shot. I wanted to use audio for the sub. You know, I was feeling like that made sense at that point. Sometimes I use Serum, sometimes I use Operator, whatever works for that project. But the sub was supposed to be like pretty consistent, so I didn't want to do like a bunch of automations and stuff like that. So audio was like the easiest way to do it. So it's just that like obnoxious sub just playing all the time, just following the pattern. And so now we have these. Of course, I'll go through these in a minute, but we have this one, we have the sub, and then we have this piece of bass that I added some reverb and I resample. This is from the stems. So if you, let me see, because I know it's somewhere here, or I don't know, somewhere in the stems. Let me just check, because I want to find that piece of I think it's this one, right? So I grabbed that piece of bass, cut the low end, added some reverb, and then we get something like this. I probably added OTT or something to make that tail a little bit louder. But now we have the mid layer of the sound, kind of like the main layer actually. And then we have the transients and the sub. So everything together sounds like this. And that's pretty cool because this one sounds super wide, but the other ones are pretty dry. So that makes a good combination between these sounds. because you still feel like the transients and the sub like are hitting pretty well, pretty dry, and then this one's adding, you know, like all the space, all the stage for the sound. So let me go to these sounds now, because I have, honestly, I have a bunch of stuff that I tried, and this is what I ended up using. But what we have is some transients, kind of like playing quarter notes. Then we have the main two. Okay, so these basically this is coming from a bass loop that I made, and I usually really like to use transients from bass groups or bass sounds because they contain a lot of information, and the original sounds like this. I mean, I have some processing here in the group, that's why we're not getting that low end, but the original, and I probably have this in one of the packs in my Patreon, I don't know. So I grabbed that little piece of audio, cut the low end, and let me just turn on the bass processing, I mean the group processing again. That's what I have. And then we have another one. And honestly, a lot of these sessions are kind of like, they're not always the same. It's not that I always use like a percussion and then like a bass transient. Sometimes if I feel like the transient is just not strong enough, I would add another one, and that's it, and then see what I can do with that. So in this case, I'll just turn off these effects. Oh. And let's see what this is. Crazy. Okay, so we have this percussion that I transposed down like -8 semitones. Okay, so that's what I got at that point, and then I have the processing. Maybe I started with some processing on, and you know, I was tweaking as I was just like changing stuff, but ended up with this super cool tone. And now, wait, let me, you know, like, it's not a big difference, but it definitely sounds a little bit more tonal with this thing on. And of course with sub. And this one, right? So that was pretty much what I did for the first part. And then the in the response, I got the only thing that I changed actually is this. I don't think I changed any of this. Yeah, I just transposed this thing down like -5 semitones. So first part sounds like this. And then a little bit shorter as well. I don't know, maybe that made sense at that point. What if it was like this? I don't know why I did that, but you know, it is what it is. And for, I mean, that's for the main sound. Honestly, not much going on here. I do have a bunch of stuff, but everything is off. So you can see how I try a lot of these things that at the end I use in the second drop. I mean, these are some of the fills in the second drop, but yeah, a lot of stuff. It's even, it's off. Like everything in this group is off. And then I have some downbeats. Not here. I do have some downbeats somewhere, or maybe in the effects. I have some fills as well, and with fills I always like to use samples, you know, because they're easy to manipulate and to change. So for example, you get a lot of these, you know, and they're all just me. I mean, me just doing this and, you know, trying to find something that sounds cool for that part. So let's play this one more time. All the fills, and then like different fills. These are so distorted, but same thing, same approach, like just using bass fills, and most of the time these are placeholders for a long time until I'm like, you know, like almost done, almost finished with the project. and then I take the time to, you know, make sure they sound good or they make sense. And most of the time these will not make sense on their own. Like, what even is that, right? The thing is in context with everything playing. They work, right? More different fills. Honestly, first drop was so, like, it wasn't easy to do it, to make it, because basically look at this. Look at all the ideas that I went through and all the stuff that I tried that didn't work, you know, but at the end, the final combination for these sounds is pretty simple. It's just like tonal layer, transient, and sub. That's pretty much it. And the sub is not even doing like, it's doing like one semitone up here. So it's doing like dun 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 dun, you know? But that's because it's following this one, okay? Wait, not even that one. Maybe I should have done that. But anyways, moving on. We go to the break, right? And break is pretty much like a combination between the intro and the break from the original, because we do have this. But the issue with these stems was that, as you can see, it has the sidechain on, right? So it's like, fuck it. I need to kind of like follow the same drums, the same drum pattern, and, you know, like make it work. So what I did was using the stems, this stem as it was. I do have some new sounds, and this is coming from granulator, but then we have the same respace from the intro and the same chop. You know, stems from the original and same drop. Before going into the break, I'm forgetting about everything else, because we still have some stuff here in the synth group and in the effects group. Sorry about that. So I grabbed a little piece of the of one of the stems and I looped it, added some processing, and just put it in the background. A lot of these decisions are pretty much like situational, and I would basically go through the whole like stem, just doing something like this and trying to find something that makes sense in the background with everything playing. So it's not like an isolated decision where I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna grab this and use it. You know, it's kind of like, okay, everything is playing, I'm just gonna tweak this as the drop is just playing and make it fit. For example, let's just play it, and I'm gonna make this super loud. Even like that sounds good. And so that's something pretty cool to do. I feel like a lot of times synergy is pretty important. Most of the time synergy is pretty important. And with these layers like background stuff or textures, ear candy, it's even more important, because, you know, sometimes you don't really know what to use for these things, for these purposes. But I feel like just working in context with everything else that you wanna kind of like incorporate this layer to is pretty important, because otherwise sometimes it's gonna sound pretty off or hard to make it fit. So we have that one, we have some of the background from the original, and then we have some effects. And I think this is one of the most important sounds here, like layers for this background in the drop. And this is just a preset that I made. That actually is kind of like a bass, kind of like a UKG kind of bass. And have some reverb on, but this is not even doing anything. But this is basically sine wave with harmonic series on top, and I just selected this 12 harmonic and distorted it with some noise. Noise is pretty important. And I think I don't know if I'm automating the bit. No, it's pretty much the same, the whole track. And I also have this one, which is just noise, I guess. Let me just check that in a minute. I think this was like minus 16 or something. Okay, I have no idea what this is, but noise. You know, like cool ear candies, I guess. So what am I doing here? Okay, phase distortion from B. I guess I was trying to make some kind of laser. And then I completely destroyed it. But yeah, pretty much noise. I guess that you can also do that with audio files. And yeah. I don't even know what I was doing, but this works. So effects. I have all this. So this is fake out, and then okay, so I have this one in the background as well. I like doing the rhythm. And this is just the original stem, you know, like I've of course cleaned the low end and added some distortion. And maybe I should have done this as well. Whoops. But yeah. And vocal chant. I don't think I did much to this one. Same idea, like play everything together, make it fit in the composition. Can't even hear this thing, so it doesn't really matter, but I always do all of these adjustments as everything's playing. So let me just, I think this was okay. That's it. You know, let's take a look at the drums. Drums are most of the time super simple. I think drums, in order to make them sound good, you need to select good samples, and that's it. Make everything around the drums. Nothing, I mean, it's not something new. I guess that it's always been like that. Like, just choose good drums, make them loud in the mix, and, you know, like, make everything else not as loud as the drums. I feel like that's the best idea to, or best way to go about these. Because I don't like to just over process my drums at all. Like, look at these samples. For example, kick, snare. Snare itself is already fucking loud. And I just added this clap layer. That's not even doing much. But things like, I'm not gonna add 20 different effects to the snare or the kick, because samples are already processed like hell, right? So I made these samples myself, so I know they have a lot of processing, a lot of compression, a lot of distortion, everything. So I don't really need to do much. And usually if you try to just do more compression or more OTT, saturator, whatever you want to do, they will sound bad in the mix. So I guess that if your drums are not cutting the mix well, you can probably just turn everything else down a little bit and adjust from there. So kick, snare, they sound pretty good. So that's gonna help me a lot with the mix sound and the energy. So then we have cymbals. This membrane thing, I use this thing all the time. It's one of my favorite cymbals. And then we have some, right? I tried this thing at some point, but it made no sense. And then I have this other hi-hat and this one. So I have like dry versions or like pretty dry hats, just doing like the rhythm, pretty much like 8 notes. And then I have like the wet kind of like version, or the wet layer, which is that membrane layer. And then the right for the offbeat. So everything together. And I do use overdrive sometimes in my cymbals. I'm not using overdrive here. So what I'm doing here, and this is not something that I do all the time, is I'm using Trash 2 for the drums. And basically I'm just like wave shaping some frequencies differently. But I was just like trying stuff, you know, in order to make everything sound more cohesive and balanced between like cymbals and the main drums. But I'm not really just adding too much. It's just something that I tried. So that's pretty much it for the drums, and the drums are just playing pretty much the whole, like the same set of cymbals and kick, snare, everything, like during the whole track. I'm not changing snare or kick at all. So now let's go to the break. And the only new thing that I added here was this thing. And let's take a look at this. So this is basically granulator, and this is how I made the ambience rack as well. So it's just granulator. This is looping pretty fast, and the sprays on, which adds a little bit of random values to this section, so it can go like a little bit to the left or to the right. And if I increase it even more, you can see that it gets a little bit too random, right? So I was just trying something like this, and I added a bunch, and when I'm saying a bunch, it's a bunch of delay and reverb, just to create this atmosphere, pretty much. And then OTT and some filtering. And I resampled this thing. And I used it to create, you know, like atmosphere here in this section. But the rest is pretty much stems, nothing new. And then we go back into the buildup, which is, as you can see, pretty much the same. So I'm not gonna go over that again. Pretty much the same. And I'm even using this same like sounds from here, because sometimes I do resample the sounds from the second drop and use them here. Sometimes I don't, you know, depends if you want to create like a bigger switch up, I guess, or like a bigger difference between the buildup and here, right? And in this case, I did want to do that because, as you can hear, the drop is just different. 1, 2, 3, go, go! So if I was gonna, like, if I used the same basis here, maybe it was not gonna hit that much, right? So let me just go into these sounds again. So now we have different sub, and the reason why I did this in a separate one is because this one has some pitch movement, right? So this is pitching down, and then we have like the normal audio version here, and we have some new sounds. Let's see what's going on. Oh my god, sorry. So let me see which one. I think this is the main one. But I'm not gonna go over here because there's some filtering going on. I'm just gonna play it here. So this is kind of like the main bass. And this sounds pretty cool. But what makes it pretty cool is kind of like that shifter movement. So let me just turn off these effects. That's the main bass, and I resampled this from this one, I think. But I'm pretty sure I resampled that at some point, and then I changed it. I changed this one because it doesn't sound exactly the same. But this is just like a sine wave with like some older oscillators just FMing this, and that's how I came up with this one. But unfortunately, I don't really have the same settings here, and it does sound a little bit different. But what I did with this is basically I added distortion, and let me just turn off the shifter in these, because these are the core effects here. So this is just distortion, and it's making it louder. As you can see, I have overdrive, EQ, overdrive, saturator, EQ, pretty much. I'm just like going crazy with distortion. But then we have the space effects. So convolution, reverb, already creating a lot of a lot of like width to the sound, and then reverb. So this one is for the reverb throws. And things like this is working really well because is going before the saturator, and I also have M wave shaper in the group. So this thing is also creating a lot of distortion in my highs. So that's why it sounds like that. Otherwise, you can hear almost that kind of like tape distortion. But then we have shifter. Okay, so this is where it gets a little bit, it becomes a little bit more interesting, I guess, because it's now moving the pitch of the sound kind of like up and down, as you can see. And for the phrase, I'm just doing this. Like, for example, I have some of the original one shots, and then as you can see, I have some of these that are like half or double. So these are like shorter. You can even see the waveform that they look like different. And that's pretty cool because it creates this sort of like movement in the phrase. It's not just this, right? Because that doesn't sound that cool. Oh my god. So I have this, which is kind of like the main phrase here. And then I have some, similar to the setup that I had in the first drop, we have main or mid layer. We have some transients or high layers. And then we have the sub, right? And in the sub, I'm not doing any shifter movement, anything. I don't like doing shifter in my sub because it's gonna make it sound a little bit weird. So that's pretty much it. Like, these are the two main sounds in this drop. Of course, I have a lot of fills, and a lot of these. In this one is coming from, I mean, we also heard this in the first drop, somewhere here. But at some point, I made that kind of like bass. I think it was this thing that I resample and I use here at the end. This is so distorted, it makes no sense. But same idea, we have overdrive, EQ, overdrive. It's kind of like the same setup. I turned the convolution off here. This is for the reverb throw and OTT. And honestly, if you really think about this is kind of like a similar version to this one. And maybe at some point I had this OTT here and it sounded cool, and that's why I have it. It's not that I'm like, how do I say it? I feel like a lot of these things and a lot of these changes happen in the moment. You know, because maybe if I didn't use OTT, maybe I used it because it was too distorted at that point, and then I made it loud again. It's hard to explain, but you see this all the time with like when people do like project breakdowns, that they do like some weird stuff in channels. And the reason why is because at this point, like, think about me making this track, right? I'm just making the main bass, and this is going really well. I'm like really in this zone here, right? So when I'm creating this fill, I'm just going through like, you know, like all my samples and the stuff that I have in the project, and I do all the processing without even thinking about it, right? So a lot of the decisions that I take at the moment, maybe I'm not even conscious about that, if that makes sense. I'm just like going and just creating, and that's pretty cool. And that's why sometimes you end up with like crazy processing racks or crazy processing chains where maybe it makes no sense, and maybe it's gonna sound like really bad 90% of the time, but for that specific sound and for that specific project, it worked, right? So what I wanna like say out of like this channel or this thing is that it's pretty much like a duplicated version of this one when it comes to like the processing, because you can see it's pretty much the same set of effects, right? But some of these things will change. Like, that's always going to be like that. Sometimes the overdrive will look like this, sometimes the shifter will look like that, you know, and that's fine. Sometimes the saturator is going to be here or here, and at the end, all these things are decisions that happen in the moment, and it's just me trying to fix things and trying to make this sound fit into the composition, right? So this worked. Maybe could have been better or worse, who knows, but this is just a sample at the end, and look at this sample. And what it did for this was distortion, you know, EQ, and kind of the same. In this case, I'm not doing the automation here, but I'm doing it here. Okay, so I have this. Let me see. Pretty much like playing with the length of the sample and the fade. I feel like that's kind of like the most interesting thing here, because you can see that some of these are shorter or faster, and this one is longer, so you can see that I did pretty much this to play around with the sample. And of course the reverb throw, which is so loud. This, boom. And then for the second part, this is the same sound, but now we get the chorus movement here in the shifter, which makes it super cool. And we also have some tape stop effect somewhere in the second. Oh my god, stop. So we have this. And some of the original bass fills. And this thing was off, so I'm just gonna keep it like that. Some more fills, you know, like same concept. Just me adding little details here and there. But let's play it again. See if I'm missing anything. Okay, so the fake out. I do have cabinet, and this is something that I've been doing for literally years, and it's using cabinet as my filter. So, oh, this one, okay. So this is the one that I'm using here. So that's what's giving me this sort of like telephone kind of like filter. Otherwise, he has a lot of energy for the fake out, and I don't want that because it's gonna make this section lose a little bit of power. So, and you can see that this, the effects that I have in the background are pretty much the same. They work really well with what I have, so I didn't feel the need to change them. Maybe these are different. You know, like they're pretty much the same. I was just making use of all the stuff that I had. I do have some like this really cool layer somewhere, with the reverb, which is pretty cool. This thing, and this is pretty important for the drop, because this is also one of the let me find it. This is pretty much the same layer as, where is it, as this one, but in this case it has like this shifter pretty high with 500 hertz here, and I'm using the reverb to create that space, right? And that's pretty cool, because the beginning of the drop, like the downbeat, sounds pretty dry without it. So, and it doesn't create this sort of like huge space or huge stage and then it shuts off, right? So that was my idea, like, and it's all about this thing. I do have this one as well, but this is just a layer, like a sample. Didn't do much to this. Pretty much like put it on the right key, and that was it. And you know, some of the effects playing here as the pre-job, I mean as the fake out happens, right? And in this one, I think this happened accidentally, but I have this. And since we have the tape stop on top of this, kind of like the reverb goes away and then it comes back, which is pretty cool. And this part is pretty much the same sound with different like shifter settings. You can see that if I do this, that's pretty similar to the first part, right? But in this case, I turn this up and it worked really well. And I do have this section here that's just a little bit different, but it's just samples, honestly. Let me see. Okay, that's Okay. Okay, so I think this one, yeah, this one is the same as the first drop, and the only one that I changed was this one. So this is coming from another bass, right? Another bass loop. So, or maybe something similar, but I use, you know, like a different stack of like transients to create this. And I feel like this is pretty cool to do it with audio because, for example, if you start changing like the length of these, you get different phrases basically. Or if you do, you know, like one longer and one shorter like this, you also create different flows. So I have this with the sub, and you know, like the sampler that I have in the first one. Yeah, pretty cool. Damn. Okay, so this thing is distorted like hell. Or what? I think it's pretty low pitched, that's why it sounds like that. And same response. The only thing that's going on here is this echo automation. So echo is fire. I love this thing. And I think that's pretty much it. Honestly, this project was chaos at the beginning. As you can see in the first group, I had some ideas in mind, but I was just like having fun with stems and just trying to do, you know, like just trying to sound design, just make something cool. Like, look at all the stuff that I have. Like, if I turn this on and okay, that's cool. That I could have used that one. Wait, let's turn this thing on. Let's see what we get. Okay, I don't think it's great, but it's cool, you know? So I was sound designing, and, you know, like some stuff started to work and started to make sense, and that's how I ended up, you know, like coming up with this idea. But one thing that I always try to like teach, or I guess explain about all my projects, is that sound design is hard, sound design is difficult, and a lot of the things that you see, like for example, if you see this, it's like, okay, yeah, this is insane, right? And it works, you're a monster at sound design. But the thing is, like, before coming up with this idea, I made so many shitty sounds, even in the same project. I'm not even talking about like years ago. I'm talking about like the same project sucked at some point, and it was just me kind of like having fun with sound design and just like experimenting, not even trying to make like the coolest drop ever. But when you start kind of like going down the rabbit hole of just like, you know, making layering this thing with, you know, like a bass loop and then sub and then do this, do that, and you have fun and you get lost in creating sounds, you most of the time end up with cool stuff, you know? Of course, then you need to be able to convert that into, okay, I need to now grab the sound design and make a track out of it, because if you're not like really good at arrangement or just like call and response ideas, it's always going to be difficult no matter what sounds you have, no matter if you have like the crazy sound design ever. It's always going to make it a little bit more difficult. So yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know that, because, you know, like sound design is always a struggle, and it's kind of like the number one thing that prevents you from just finishing more music. So I think that's pretty much it for this outro. Let's check out what's going on. Stems with a bunch of reverb, breeze. And more stems. One thing that I'm forgetting is maybe the group in the, maybe the processing in the group, but I don't think it's super crazy. It's just this multiband compression. Just kind of like compressing, and then I'm making it a little bit louder. It's kind of like this is one of those projects where the post-processing in the group might be just this, but then if you take a look at the layers inside of it, like they contain a lot more processing, like this one and this one. I mean, this section is pretty chill, but the second part contains a lot more specific effects on, you know, like certain layers, and it's more about just getting one layer to sound big, and then the rest is kind of like just okay, gluing everything together. But that's pretty much it. And for some of these high layers, what I like to do is, you know, using a lot of noise. So in this case, I'm using Wave Shaper for that. You can hear that it's pretty like aggressive, honestly. But I like that bright high end. You know, I always try to just make it sound good, noisy, but okay. But yeah, guys, that was pretty much it. I think I'm not forgetting anything important. Some effects, you know, like random stuff, but this is just like all me kind of like making adjustments in some sections. But I hope you like the Fuze remix breakdown. Appreciate you guys with all the love and support in this track. So hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.